people have asked me multiple times now, would you trade for Zach LaVine and Io? And if I was another team and you're giving me Zach LaVine and Io and a first round pick, sure. 1,000%.
Well, the Warriors had a chance to get him. And
I feel like the tides have turned too much on Zach LaVine. I understand saying he's overpaid. I understand saying he's overpaid. But them acting like his contract is immovable.
Right.
I feel like I don't know what's happened. I don't know what's shifted the tide so far the other way for Zach LaVine. But I feel like whichever team does get him, since the Bulls are just trying to get rid of him, you're not gonna have to give up too much. They're getting a really good player. Zach LaVine is a really good player.
Great spot
the Warriors said no for Chris Paul, Andrew Wiggins for Zach LaVine.
Domo.
Yeah, and I don't understand.
Domo, I need you to understand something. The fact that the Bulls called the Warriors saying, listen, we could do Chris Paul or listen, Chris Haynes said straight up. They were talking about doing like Chris Paul or maybe even Andrew Wiggins straight up. And the Warriors said it's not feasible. I'm like, oof.
Yeah, I don't like the way they talk. You think he's making like 50 million? Like I get 40.
It's really not that bad.
I get
well, no, my bad. It is that bad.
There's like 3 years, 40, 43, something like that. I get it. But Zach LaVine is an elite player, in my opinion. I feel like this last season has kind of clouded everyone's judgment. He's not going to be what he was in like 21-ish, whatever year he was like crazy. But he's a very good scorer. Off the ball, on the ball, can get to the rim, shoot the three, not much in the mid-range, can make basic reads. And also, he wasn't a defensive liability. Now, he's not very good, but he's not a liability out there. Like, I feel like there's uses for that type of player in the league somewhere. But I guess not. I guess I'm missing.
The Warriors said no to Zach LaVine and missed out on Paul George. Y'all deserve to be in shambles.
No, for real. Like, what are y'all doing?
They need to trade Steph. I ain't gonna lie. They just wasted.
Glad all this is happening. Y'all literally turned down the chance to get Zach LaVine to pair somebody with Stephen Curry to help him go forward. And they said, no, we're good. We'll just let Chris Paul walk for nothing, and we'll keep a regressed Andrew Wiggins.
And they didn't move Chris Paul at the deadline either.
I was thinking about that yesterday. Andrew Wiggins is the first guy I've seen regress. He was another
regress is crazy.
That regressed from his original ceiling. Got to the Warriors, had to come back in 22 and regressed again. I've never seen it. And y'all said no to trading him for Zach LaVine. Factory of sadness for another 20 years. Has to be.
And Chris Paul, though, Damo. They just let Chris Paul walk out the door.
Yeah, they said, no, we're not going to take Zach LaVine. We'll just waive Chris Paul.
Bro, they literally they literally say, you know what, bro?
Okay. First of all, let's not make it look like they just let Chris Paul walk out the front door. I mean, even though on the one hand, Damo, they did, but that was $30 million that they did say that they don't have to pay Chris Paul. Only that part out. That's pretty important to mention that part.
But that's why you need to trade it because they have salary to
for a 39-year-old.
No.
Paying him
100%, but you got to use the salary to do something. You trade for Chris Paul to use his salary to flip into some type of asset. The fact that the Bulls call you and say basically straight up, we'll do it, and you say no, you're basically saying we don't want to give up Chris Paul or Andrew Wiggins for a really good player who can literally run the same sets Klay Thompson did. Maybe even, more crisp because he can actually get downhill. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't at least entertain that.
But wait a minute. The idea that, okay, you move off of Chris Paul and you don't have to pay him that $30 million. Okay, you letting Klay walk because you actually offered him 48 for 2 years and he passed on that. So you're letting him walk. I think the Warriors, I think the Warriors' idea is they think with that money that they've saved that they could possibly bag a free agent. I think that's the idea, which I don't know.
Who are the guys?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't know how feasible that is, but I think that they think they could bag a guy. That wasn't my issue. My issue was them turning down. My issue was the Clippers. Mm-hmm. The Clippers. The Warriors wanted Paul George. They offered JK. They offered JK. They offered Andrew Wiggins. I believe they offered like 2 or 3. I believe they offered some draft picks. And the Clippers said, we are not giving you Paul George. That's it. We're not doing that.
And then lost him for nothing.
That's
all it was. That's all it was, Ron. It was nothing. It wasn't because the money didn't work. It wasn't because we are not giving you Paul George. We'll let him walk out the front door before we give him to you. We're not doing that.
And that's just bad business, though. Like that's just awful business. Terrible. Because you trade for Harden under the assumption that all three together we can do something with this team, right? We traded all of these picks for Paul George and Kawhi, not just Paul George, to get Paul George and Kawhi Leonard in the door. You re-sign Kawhi Leonard, Paul George is there. You don't want to offer it to him. Now Paul George walks. I'm pretty sure Harden is getting traded mid-season. I will bet on that. Yes.
I don't think so.
Yes, Domo. Yes. Why not?
Okay, first of all,
because go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm eager to hear this. Go ahead.
I'm all ears.
Very simple. It's very simple. Steve Ballmer needs to sell tickets in the stadium.
That's number one.
And you literally got Kawhi Leonard over here with the assumption that you're going to have a guy with him. And I mean, I don't know how people feel about James Harden compared to Paul George, but to me, I mean, it don't matter who you have better than the other. The gap isn't significant, in my opinion, between Paul George and James Harden. That's what I would say. And the fact that they brought back James Harden for the money they brought him back to, they brought KPJ, they brought Derrick Jones. I knew Paul George was walking. You just need a guy there. Now, if Russ walked, if James walked, yes, Kawhi's out of there. It's over, blow it up. The fact they brought back James Harden for what they did, he's staying there I would assume he's there for 2 years unless he forces his way out.
No.
Absolutely.
Okay. So the reason why I disagree the reason why I disagree, Domo, is this notion about the area and like their new arena being their huge main focal point. If that's the case, they would have kept Paul George and rolled it out. The fact that Harden signed a 1-for-1 deal, we've seen this before, where Harden has been on a 1-for-1 deal with the player option. It makes him much more tradable. And more importantly, if you're James Harden, if you start the season where it's you and Kawhi Leonard, who's been injury prone, and you wind up in the same situation as you were in Brooklyn, are we surprised if James Harden gets traded? No, because we've seen it happen before. So it's not just, they don't have a choice. He literally has a 1-for-1 deal. That is the most tradable type of contract for a James Harden type player. Sure, it wouldn't surprise me if he asked out.
And that doesn't surprise me either. Him asking out, that's not what I'm against. I'm against the thought process that the Clippers are bringing him back with the intentions of moving him before the deadline to get something more favorable for them.
But they brought him back to at least keep the asset. You keep the asset. Unlike Paul George, for whatever reason.
But the only way he gets traded is if he wants to leave. He leaves on his terms. I don't think this is a situation where, like with the Wizards getting JV, okay, we're gonna let him play up his contract to get better assets from a contending team that wants him because they see how he's playing. Because we got Sarr, we got Holmes, we have other guys. So keeping him isn't ideal. I think keeping him is ideal for the Clippers. The Clippers do want to ride out with him for a year, at least for this year. They're not just getting him. They didn't bring him back with the intentions of let's see who wants him by the deadline. That's what I'm saying.
I think they brought him back because Harden wanted to get paid, though. Like it has less to do with them trying to.
That's the problem, right there.
Yeah,
what you just said
he wanted to get paid, not the Clippers. It's because Harden wanted his $35 million. Because remember, he took less initially, which got him in this overall situation, right? So now that he's in this new situation, hey. I don't know what's going to happen with Kawhi Leonard or Paul George, but I don't want to do this thing where I take all this again. I'll take 35 now. I'll have a player option. So if I get hurt or something, I can opt in and secure that money, or you can trade me somewhere else and then another team will extend me for what I want. That's what's going to happen. I think the way his contract is set up, I really do not see him spending his next 2 years on this team. He will be traded in whatever capacity or opt out. If you want to say he'll be there the whole year, fine. But I truly feel like the type of deal that he has based on Harden's past and based on what this Clippers roster is looking like, he will be gone.
Join, wait,